All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guests. I'd like to welcome to this program. He's been here a number of times. He's regular on this program. Professor Abba Gambo is the Agric Advisor to the Nigeria Governors Forum. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here once again, sir.
Let me also welcome to this program Wing Commander Shuaibu Hamza, retired. This is a lawyer and president of National Association of Wheat Farmers, Processors and Marketers of Nigeria. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, sir, for having me.
We're also joined tonight by Dr. Austin Maduka, the General Secretary, National Agricultural Commodities Projects. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you, Sril, for having you once again.
Right. Well, so, as we know, at some point in time, this program will be interactive. You can join in the conversation, but at that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. For now, let's say, once again, welcome to you all on NTA Tuesday Live. It's about farming and food security, food sufficiency in Nigeria. So let's begin to look at the issues at stake. And at some point in time, dry season farming, of course, will come into this discussion. But let's start by assessing how the agri sector fared. It's December, the year is virtually ended. So in the outgoing 2023, how would you rate the agri sector? Professor Abba Gambo.
Thank you very much. Now, honestly, Cyril, the agricultural sector performance, in particularly the last quarter of this year, has not been as buoyant or as vibrant as we expected. Then during the course of the program, we'll see various factors that actually alluded to that. But then overall, I think we have to give the subsistence farmers that we say, even though they are subsistent, they are the ones feeding the nation, we have to give them all the necessary kudos for being on the farm. And then secondly, and most importantly, another major factor that has actually made the agricultural sector not to perform as expected in my own capacity is the issue of lack of inputs. We always emphasize on this program and in other fora that qualitative seeds has to be available for the farmers. Fertilizer is out of reach of many farmers now. Then the chemicals to control weeds, the chemicals to control pests are not also readily available. But then the farmers are just using their own crude and rudimentary methods to do things. And I think with the declaration of national food security, declaration of emergency on national food security by the president, it's very important that we take these key issues into perspective, because without them, the needed food security can never be achieved. For example, for a good harvest by any farmer, there has to be the qualitative seeds available at the beginning of the rainy season for the farmer. So if that is not done, the farmer moves through his farm and then he gets some high-yielding things and then he plants. Then it becomes his seed. But then the truth of the matter is, whatever you put at any point in time, you dig the soil and put, that thing has automatically become food. So it cannot be recycled again to be used as seed. And then it's left to the relevant agencies to make sure that qualitative, what we mean qualitative hybrid seeds, are available to all the farmers across the country based on their geopolitical locations and then based on the comparative advantages of their areas, the kind of crops to produce. Qualitative seed must be available for a robust agricultural growth.
All right, so we'll put the same question to the other guests here and see. All season farming now, not just. And as they say, it's considered as crucial to food sufficiency. But again, it demands strong commitments from all the stakeholders. So what's your take on this now?
Yeah, agriculturally, Cyril, dry season farming has more productivity and then more increased economic benefits than rain-fed farming. This is known all over the world. I'll give examples. And then secondly, it's also very important we should know that dry season means when the sky is clear, there is no relative humidity or cloudiness. So you now have the challenge of very high temperatures. While we are talking about transpiration of water during the rain-fed because of cloudiness and relative humidity, during the dry season, whatever amount of water you pour, you are competing with the clouds, because with the atmosphere, because it takes away the water not just from the soil but also from the crop. So we are now talking about evaporation or evapotranspiration, as the case might be. So these are the few challenges. But then significantly, the hectareage under rain-fed is lower than the hectareage under dry season farming. For example, if you want to grow onions now in the Sokoto Valley, Fadama, the yield you're going to get per ton of onions, where I did my own PhD, you might be able to get about 45 tons of onions from some few hectareages. But then if you're going to do the same thing under the rain-fed, you're likely going to get less than 10 tons of the same onion, because there are environmental factors that determine the growth of certain crops. And among those factors, like I mentioned, is temperature. Most of the crops that we grow during the dry season need that particular period of harmattan, when the temperature is so very low, especially across the northern part of the country, and like the Honorable said, when in the plateaus, the temperature is very low. So this is very encouraging for dry season farming. If you do not have a good source of water and the temperature is not very low within a particular period during the growth of crops under the dry season farming, you're not going to make any profit, definitely. These are the two most critical factors in dry season. And that's why it's called dry season. And then when you talk about irrigation now, it's artificial addition of water to the soil instead of the rain-fed, which is natural. That's why we said irrigate. You now have to pour the water by yourself, not naturally. So that's why we said it's an irrigated land, dry season farming, etc., because no trace of rain anywhere.
Well, you've just said that certain crops require certain temperatures to do well, but that's not the case with wheat, is it?
Yeah, in fact, wheat is the most prominent among the crops that need that particular period. For wheat, the period is so very important that once you lose that particular period, the inflorescence or the flowers that will grow and then they produce the seeds, you see the flowers, but then the seeds will never develop. Once you meet, it's a very thin period, and you have to take that into consideration. When you grow across the growth cycle, there should be, most especially when it's about seeding, a small ray of very low temperature, and then most farmers are aware of that and they work towards that.
Well, all right, back to the studio here. Well, Professor Abba Gambo, we've seen those two reports, but it might sound a rhetorical question here, because the biggest challenge still has to be that of putting food on the table, achieving that sufficiency in food production. So with all the systems of the rain-fed and the dry season farming, it still goes beyond comprehension that food is scarce. Of course, Dr. Maduka had alluded to that as well in one of his comments, that food is scarce in the market, and where it is, it's expensive. And even if you look at current realities, it's rising the more. What's the challenge here?
Yeah, there are major challenges, but then time will not allow me to go all the hog. But I just have to emphasize some, and then maybe my colleagues will emphasize. Now, all over the nation, farmers need to make their land preparation as quickly as possible, And then all over the nation, there is no single state that can do land preparation without any mechanical input. It might be horse-driven, it might be donkey-driven, it might be the diesel-based tractor, etc. But then without this, it cannot be possible. But now, if you're talking about the diesel, there is no sincere farmer that will come out to tell you that he has the wherewithal to put diesel on a tractor to work for him for at least 5 hours. It's going to be extremely difficult. In most cases, and then the tractors are being hired, instead of paying maybe 10, 15,000 per hour before, now farmers are paying 50,000. If a farmer has 250,000 naira, for example, and then you want him to go and pay that to the state tractor hiring agency, he will rather, for 5 hours, he will rather keep the 250,000 and go and buy food. So one farmer has been lost. Then farmer B might do the same and then buy again. 2 farmers have been lost. By the time you take the cumulative across the value chain, production is going on, but then the demand is also increasing. So the number of people that are on the farms are getting lower and lower by the day because of so many frustrations. From the report, they are talking, every person that we saw on the report is talking about one challenge or the other. But then I want to put it on record that one of the major challenges is this land preparation. Under the dry season, the land preparation becomes even harder because you are now going to use tractors on soils that have absorbed so much water, and in most cases, some of them are clay, deep vertisols, especially in parts of Borno State, parts of Adamawa State, deep vertisols. So for that, your tractor might even clog. You understand? So you need a more sophisticated means of making sure that the lands are prepared. And don't forget, we're talking about Fadama. Fadama means an area that has absorbed enough water. When I was doing my practicals at the Osmano Danfodio University, Sokoto, when I was, after planting, when I got my produce, no car could have entered the Fadama because it will sink. So do you know what we did? You had to hire camels. I'm telling you, we hired camels, and I always enjoy seeing a caravan of camels carry my produce from the Fadama to the main road, so that from the main road, I now get a car that will help me take it to the laboratory for analysis. That was how we did it. So I had caravan that was coming, carrying my produce, and then I'll be following them. So at times you wonder, am I in Sokoto, am I in Niger Republic, or whatever, you understand? But then we are still going back to the old days. So the land is so heavy. Let me use the word heavy. And the land is clay at the same time. And it has absorbed so much water. So you can have a kind of thinking of how the land is. That's a typical Fadama land for you. Then when you plow it, because it has absorbed so much water, the amount of flora or the amount of plants on it are more than under the dry season. What I mean is during the rainy season, plenty of crops have accumulated on the soil. Plenty. So now you're also removing the crops. You're also making sure that your tractor does not sink. And then you're also thinking about the diesel, the amount of diesel that you have to pay for such a procedure. Most farmers do not have that. Yes, they do not.
Expected, and the others have spoken about post-harvest losses. Well, you are the agronomist here. All over the world, developments have gotten to the stage where there's value addition. Nigeria continues to export raw produce, and efforts at added value to this have not yielded the kind of results that are expected. And year in, year out, huge losses are recorded in terms of farm produce. 2 questions will come to our mind. The first is, how much research have we done into how to adequately store and add value to this produce? And the other has to do with the policies and the third has to do with even the farmers themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, you said two, but then you asked three questions. I will try to navigate. Firstly, let's talk about the governmental and the policy issues. The present Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, during his opening agenda, he stated that in November 2023, there will be the first ever National Summit on Agriculture, and then that is going to be followed by the National Council on Agriculture. In fact, they wanted to do it in Cross River State, but now we are in December, and the governor is at Dubai for the COP28. So we now await his arrival to make sure that we have these two important gatherings. And that gathering is the only gathering that will bring all the stakeholders we are talking about. That is one, as per policy. Then secondly, as per the farmers, Cyril, what do you expect me to do? For example, if I am a rural farmer, it may be, for example, at Zuru in Kebbi State, I'm a retired school teacher. I'm just receiving my pension, which is not even forthcoming from other states. That's my only source of livelihood. And I have children that are all school age, and I have to pay the school fees, etc. Now, without any incentives, there is a kind of competition between what I should do at a particular time. Or let me give you another example. Gubio in northern Borno State. It's a desert area. They have less than 3 months of rainfall. So whatever agricultural activity, they must finish it within the 3 months, or else they're out of business. Now, in such a circumstance, and the rainy season is so very little, and the temperature is so very harsh, you understand? So the water table goes deep down. So under such a scenario, if you have a bucket of water, now comparative analysis, are you going to give the housewife to cook for the day? Or are you going to take a bath yourself? Or are you going to give it to the animals that you have? Or are you going to allow the kids to play in the water? So you can actually gauge, that's the scenario of a typical Nigerian farmer. Let's go down to that level. If we do not go down to that level, we can never get it correct. This is somebody that is making his living on nothing unless that land. And the rents, in most cases, they might come, but then they will come late, or they will come plentiful, and then instead of expecting a kind of drought, you are seeing flood. You understand? The predictions and the forecasts do not always fall into play. So the farmers are left on their own. And what we are saying is, bring those farmers that are living on their own. How about Cyril? The market women, they meet constantly. Politicians, almost daily. You understand? The academicians in my university, every last Thursday of the day, we do our Senate where all of us will meet. But then the National Council of Agriculture, that has the final say on these things we are saying, meets once every year. It doesn't make sense. And that meeting is now going to be in November. The meeting is actually supposed to be at the beginning of the rainy season, so that at least all the necessary issues we are now talking about can be tabled, and then solutions can be instantly found. Now to the most important crux of the matter, the post-harvest loss. Is so annoying in a country of 200 million people that you do not have a single governmental-owned agro-processing plant in any part of the states or in any part of the country. The mangoes he's talking about, by the time you go to Maiduguri, you go to the Hadejia axis, you go to other parts, you see mangoes everywhere. Not a single even small scale, that can squeeze the juice out of the mangoes, bottle them and keep them. We don't have.
Where's
the tomatoes.
Right, okay.
You understand? So what we are now saying is, do not leave the agricultural situation to the subsistence farmers. We want investors to come in. We want agriculture to be viewed as an investment. Like you're going to build a kind of private factory. So you now take a loan, make sure that you do something that will add value. The ones we have, if they are properly harnessed, can feed the country. But then now, talking about 59% loss in most crops, arable crops in Nigeria, there is no way we can reach that target that we're talking about. It's not possible. And then take into cognizance the annual season of pests, grasshoppers, koala bats. You understand? Then at the same time, take into cognizance the insecurity that is bothering most of the states, whereby before you go and harvest, you have to pay some little boys some money, or else they will not allow you to go to your farm. They call that harvesting fee. You understand? We are all witnesses to this. And then, like we said, something has to be done, and it must be done quickly, really. Something drastic must be done as quickly as possible. The farmers are out there. You have to give them all the support. The farms are there. You have to give them all the support. These are people that do not have any earnings except from that particular piece of land. So if the necessary incentives are not given to them, definitely the production is going to be low. And then secondly, if after production, you are not ready to mop it up, like under the commodity board situation, that's where Dr. Austin is very important to this country at this particular time. The commodity boards are supposed to mop up whatever that is produced. And luckily enough in Nigeria, most of our products are in particular zones or clusters. So you can actually aggregate. Most of the tomatoes we are talking about is in the northern part of the country, across the Kura, Chiroma axis, up to Zamfara, Kepi, etc. Most of the rice are in one part. Most of the onions are in another part. Most of the yams are in the middle belt and some southeastern set, etc. So they are all scattered. So it's easy for you to form a cluster of whatever you're doing. You understand? A private company is now collecting milk in Adamawa State. So what you have is people are now buying cows and then getting closer to that factory. Because every day you lactate your cow and then you take it to the factory, the farm, they now record it, series toba, 1 liter today, series toba, 3 liters today, 3 liters tomorrow. Then on every Friday, you come and then they give you cash. They give you cash. So people are now even selling properties. These are the kind of aggregation we're talking about. A similar factory should be there for the tomato farmers because they are in one place. A similar factory should be there for yam, cassava. If you can bring out ethanol. The price of ethanol in the world is skyrocketing. The same thing with the mangoes. You can cut the mangoes into flakes. Yes, you can dry them into flakes and then package them, so that during the off-mango season, you can still have mango. Or you can even compressed by drying technology. So that once it's compressed, and then when you need the mango, all you need to do is to put it in water, it swells, and you have your full mango. But up till today, we do not have such technologies in Nigeria, which is very sad. Very sad indeed, honestly.
I'm tempted to ask in all of this, where's the private sector? Because it's been agreed that the agricultural extension services workers have a key role to play in food security. Prof, you're the agronomist now.
Yeah.
Why would it seem that over the years, even with the knowledge of their dwindling numbers, we don't see concerted efforts at beefing up this?
Okay, I think the most fundamental thing we should know is that when all the ADPs were working and then we saw the extension workers with flashy motorcycles, more bikes, moving from one place to another, it was of the ADPs. It was then a World Bank funded project. So once the project died, World Bank pulled up its money, the states could no longer afford the cost of the extension workers, and most of them were laid off. One. Then secondly, let me just briefly tell you something before I continue with the extension. This morning I was at a conference on mechanization with the AFAN president, and then we were told that Nigeria needs about 150,000 tractors for the farmers. 150,000. But then as we are talking now, Nigeria has only 30,000 tractors, and out of the 30,000 tractors, only 7,000 are functional. We got this information this morning today at a conference on mechanization. The AFAN president was there. So to continue with the extension issue, we can no longer be able to say mop up the youths, whatever, because the money is not there. That's the agreement always. But then we can go a little bit further. You know, extension is all about communicating and then service delivery. You can get the research findings instead of now getting somebody to go to that particular community to give the message. Most communities in the northern part of the country, they listen to radio. So there should be more talks on radio in their respective local languages across the states. One. And then secondly, virtually every person has a mobile phone now in the hand. So you can actually be texting messages on weather forecast, data, you understand, when to plant, when to harvest, etc. And this reminds me, in one of the reports, we saw somebody dropping a bag of onion onto the truck. So that's where the post-harvest issue starts. Onion is full of water. And then you now have onion and you throw another one when the two onions collapse or when they hit each other. You understand? That's where the post-harvest starts. And even at the farm gate, you saw the harvesting method is crude. They pull out the onions and then they have a sharp knife. They are not even looking at where to cut. They are just cutting up. Before you put a small, once you put a small scar on any part of the onion, that onion is gone. It's just like in the house. Once an onion, a small scar is inflicted, when you come back to the house, when you leave in the morning, come back to the house, the smell of that particular onion will tell you that something is rotten in your house because they are perishable. And most of them have plenty of water content. So the handling, whatever, but like I rightly said, there are steps in this agricultural thing. I think we have to leave the people-based thing and maybe go about some other important. You see, the radio, you can actually pass plenty of messages. Telephone, you can actually pass plenty of messages. Jingles, you can also pass plenty of messages. But then, even in the states, who are the relevant people that are supposed to do this? In most cases, they say are the ADPs. In some states, the ADPs are even not there at all. In others that have it, they do not have the money to do it. So we are now still cycling in the same macabre dance whereby everybody dances and leaves the stage, but then you leave the drummers there at the end of the day. Drumming continues, no dancers again.
And always been identified as a challenge. And it's not the paucity of the ideas and what to do. Why do things always come apart at the point of implementation?
All right, Cyril, on a more serious note, let me just give you a particular scenario. It's APC government for the last 8 and perhaps half years. In the 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari, the first Minister of Agriculture was Chief Abba. He came with the Green Alternative Agenda. Excellent policy statement. Chief Abba left. The Green Alternative was pushed aside. The next minister came, another agenda came. The next minister came, another agenda came. So like Ali rightly said, the policies are all there. If you're to go to the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security today, the documents you will get, I'm telling you, the documents that are there, well-documented things, the ministry will just have just gotten it like a puzzle, you just take and fix. But then so many things are at play here, really. On a more serious note, we must take into cognizance the issue of research. In my university, Faculty of Agriculture has been there for long. In other universities, in fact, I just developed a Faculty of Agriculture at the Yobe State University. But then, all over the world, research is demand-driven. Cyril, you tell me what you really need so that I go to research on it. But then we are just out there researching and then getting our students do some projects. We write fanciful papers. All of us are becoming professors. And all the information gotten is just left on our shelves. You never find anybody coming to the Faculty of Agriculture, University of Maiduguri, to ask for whatever information in the whole state. You never. So this is the kind of scenario we're talking about. If you are not asked, you cannot give. And even if you are asked, you can only give what you have. You cannot give what you do not have. So research is very key here. Make sure you have now a kind of demand-driven research, and it's going to go a long way. Then secondly, and most importantly, whether we like it or not, it stops at the box of the leaders. Implementation. It stops at the box of, we can keep talking, but then if the political will is not there. And I'm happy to note that the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security said, for the first time he is confessing that he has the political will. So that's at least something interesting to hear. For the very first time, a minister is saying, yes, all the things we're talking about, he alluded to them. He said, yes, I know they are existing. But now I want to tell you that I have the political will, and then I'm going to enter headlong into all this, and then it's going to be a thing of the past. But then hunger, it's time-driven. There is a limitation to which you can endure hunger, really. So if that little time is overtaken or extended or further extended, the outcome is going to be extremely difficult for all of us. That's why, whether we like it or not, we have to talk it now, and then we have to say it, that Nigeria is hungry, there is food security in the land, and something drastic, like I said at the beginning, and the Omar said from Birnin Kebbi, must be done. Then maybe let me just quickly address two things. The issue of insecurity, I don't want to talk about it because of what has just happened in Kaduna. You know, only people like retired wing commander can actually say something about. But then the issue of fuel and diesel he was talking about is very expensive during the dry season because the tractor uses diesel, and then the pumping machine, the water pumping machine also uses diesel, uses fuel. Now fuel is very expensive and the diesel is also very expensive. On the same farm, tractor for land clearing, the diesel is very expensive, and then the small pumping machine that you now use fuel to pump the water is also very expensive. But then something has come out of the dry season issue. The minister launched for the first time solar-powered pumping machines. I think that is the way to go. So we can now see an improvement in what you're talking about. So the farmer would no longer have to pay for the fuel or the PMS that is going to put into the pumping machine to do it. Is going to be solar-based. So I think that's a good one.
Let's go to one aspect that's been raised here. Let's see if more calls are coming in. We'll take them. I do believe that we can still take one or two. Yes, and we have Muhammad calling from Abuja. Hello, Muhammad, you there?
Hey, pass.
Yes, go ahead.
I am.
Go ahead,
Can
please.
I ask my question, please?
Yes, go on.
Okay, thank you very much. My question goes to the professor. Okay, my president is sitting there. I'm the chairman of National State branch of the Wheat Farmers, Marketers and Processors Association of Nigeria.
My chairman.
Yes. He mentioned what an American company is ready to do in Niger State. I'm impressed about that, my president. Yes, I want to ask the professor. Yes, I want to ask the professor and the advisor to the governor's forum this question, please.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Former Chief of Army Staff General Burisai once mentioned at the National Assembly that he had advised governors to cultivate the wild land, farmland in their areas and forests. And that is the reason why we still have insecurity. Professor, please, what have you been advising the state governors to do in regard to this wild farmland and forest in their state? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mohammed. Professor Abba Gambo, You heard
Okay,
him.
Muhammad, thank you very much. You are in the wheat corridor. That's a good one. Now, let me just explain something to you. We advise the governors. I handle the agri-debts, and I give all the details for agricultural performance indices within the Nigerian Governors Forum. That is my responsibility. But now, two things. Giving advice is one thing, and then taking the advice to its logical conclusion is another thing. And you're talking about uncultivated lands. Yes, we are aware there are plenty of uncultivated lands all over the country, but then when you now go and then you want to put those lands into cultivation, the issue of clearing comes into being. In the north, we're talking of tractors to clear because it's just a kind of Sahelian grasses and then you need the tractor. But then by the time you go to the south, most especially the rainforest, you don't need tractors now. You need real bulldozers. And most states do not have that. This is the kind of thing we're talking about. In Ogun State, in Oyo State, in Ekiti State, and then you go to the southeast, Abia, Imo, or you go to the south-south, Delta. You understand? Luckily for Bayelsa, they are riverine, but then the other southern states are all within the rainforest. You have trees that are more than 100 years, the Iroquois, the Ibeches. And you have thick forest that you can actually walk for more than 5 minutes without the sun touching down on you. How do you clear such forests? Please. That is one question to you. And then secondly, across the whole of the north, we're saying we want to use tractors to clear the lands. And I just gave an example that Nigeria needs about 150,000 tractors. But for now, what we have on paper is 30,000, and out of the 30, only 7,000 are functional. Are we taking all the 7,000 to Kebbi State, or are we taking it to Nasarawa State, or we are taking it to my home state, Borno? Please. I think it's clear, and I'm sure you must have understood it. So we are doing our work, we are giving the advices, but then, apart from me as their main advisor, they all have special advisors on agriculture in their respective states. They have senior special advisor on agriculture. They have special assistant on agriculture. They have special technical assistant on agriculture. That's in their own states. So are those people also not advising the governors in their own states? And then coming to the monthly Nigerian Governors Forum, whereby we now give the details of what is happening. You have to be fair to us, we are doing it, and perhaps maybe you tell us a better way to do it. But it's okay. Thank you.
All right. There's one aspect I still like to go back to, and that encapsulates what has been happening. Well, another call coming in. This one is calling in from Zaria. Njuma from Zaria. Njuma from Zaria. Can we hear you?
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead, please. Thanks for calling in.
Yes, I just want to make one two things contribution.
Right.
I'm a civil servant up to now. But when the government started giving out loans, that cost borrower something, I applied for that loan wholeheartedly with the intention of leaving my government job, because I know I can sustain myself in the agricultural sector better than as a civil servant. But unfortunately, the court is what have you abused the chances given to us. In my
Hello, Njuma. Oh dear, Njuma, we really would have loved to hear you conclude, but I'm hoping you'll call back. Just one thing I picked out from what you were saying before the line went off was that just about run out of time, so the next couple of minutes, just 2 minutes or so we have to go. We'll ask the gentlemen here to round off with their closing thoughts on what we've been discussing so far.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Now, quickly, I want to let the country know that there is a kind of political will now. We should not all of us lose hope. Really, there is a political will, and with the dry season wheat initiative and other dry season crops initiative, we are now talking of 2 crop seasons in most parts of the country, which is going to put additional tonnage of food materials on the table. And by the time the harvest of the dry season comes out, the rainy season is about coming in. So the mistakes in the dry season must have been seen, and then something drastic will be done to make sure that such mistakes do not come up again. And then look, also let me thank your contributors, those that are calling, most especially the young man Mohammed that was asking me, how am I doing my job? And you know, such callers will now make you to sit and do your job very well. So my major takeaway from today, today's event, session is that call from Mohammed, I want to thank him most sincerely, because he has now given me an impetus on how to do my real job at the Nigerian Governors Forum as the Agric Advisor. Mohammed, thank you very much.
Well, thank you too. And Wink Madashuaib Hamza.
Thank you very much. Quickly, I will want to thank the President and Commander-in-Chief for coming up with this food security agenda. It's a laudable scheme. We've never seen that political will in the past. And the Minister of Agric is doing his best. But honestly, much, much more needed to be done in assisting the farmers with finance and inputs. Now, coming to, I said I was going to talk about, a minute or two. I said I was going to talk about the rain-fed variety of the wheat, which I feel the professor has already dwelled so much on it. Now, Nigeria, we are lucky now. Instead of relying on the irrigated season, we have, no matter how small it is, we have the opportunity of cultivating wheat now during the rain-fed. At least the 3 plateaus, let us utilize them. Let us encourage all those research institutes that are coming up with these beautiful achievements. Let us encourage them. Let us do dry season. Let us do rain-fed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And finally, Dr. Maduka.
Yeah, sincerely, I want to appreciate the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on the renewed hope mandate. He has shown that he has passion for the country, but they need to speed up whatever the government is doing. Presently, there's hunger in the land, there's food crisis, and we are coming into the festive season of Christmas, and a lot of persons may not even know what to do this period. There's no grain. Most poultry farmers may not even grow chicken this season, and it's going to be very expensive because of cost of production, most especially their feeds. So I want to encourage the government, as we go into the dry season and wet season, we should be timely, and then funds should be made available as quick as possible.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I always say that no one program can capture all the issues at stake, so we'd like to thank you for this program, and of course, those who also called in. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.